Hi everyone, TheHande here, and welcome to another She Couch vlog. And today I'm going to be talking about the third season of the Netflix She-Ra show, just like before. I saw the series last weekend, and I've been trying to go over in my head how I really wanted to approach reviewing this particular series, and I'm sorry, I still am a little bit indecisive, so this might turn into a bit of a jumbly mess of a review for this particular season. However, I'm not going to be doing the episode-by-episode rundown the same way I did with the second season. And also, a fair warning ahead of time that there are going to be a lot of spoilers, because I really can't talk about this season in detail without going into them. But there's only 6 episodes, so if you want to watch the show first and then watch me talk about it, that's fine. So anyway, that sort of does bring me to maybe my first and foremost complaint about this new season of the Netflix She-Ra show, and that's the fact that I really am not a big fan of these mini seasons that Netflix and DreamWorks have seemed to have landed upon. I honestly think that seasons 2 and 3 could have easily just been one long season. Honestly, I would have preferred it that way. Because if you remember my previous vlog on the second season, my big complaint with that season was the fact that there wasn't really a story arc. There was a really kind of expectatory feeling that we were just kind of building up to things in this season. But I would say in far better comparison to this season, there were at least kind of funny one-offy episodes. I've noticed this about myself in recent years, that I actually kind of prefer self-contained episode plots way more than ones that just bleed into other episodes, which is one of the reasons why I really was not a fan of the last 2 episodes, and you can maybe even count the last 3 episodes of this particular season. And one very obvious flaw that I really have to talk about is the fact that whereas last season they fixed the problem I had with season 1, which was that I didn't feel that the princesses in the show really got a lot of screen time. In the third season, we're back to having them just be background fodder for the most part. And I'm thinking that DreamWorks has kind of realized a big problem with the show is that there's maybe a few too many characters running around. I'm not saying that every single character needs to have an episode devoted to them each season. That's not really what I'm getting at. I think it's just kind of funny that you keep showing this huge cast of characters in the intro every single time, and really less than half of them are relevant in any one episode. Swiftwind didn't have any dialogue this season. That's how insignificant these supporting characters have now become. And which is why I would have really preferred if seasons 2 and 3 would have been just one long season, because I feel that then we would have had a nice balance of funny one-offy episodes and then serious story-driven ones. I wouldn't have minded if the last 6 episodes or so of a second season of the show would have been more story-driven. And which is why I feel that the first season of the show honestly is the best one so far, just because we did have those funny one-offy stories, then we had more plot-driven parts, and more importantly, we had a great story arc that culminated in the final episode of the season, which I really liked. Now, before we go on though, I do have to say that there were some really good things about this season. And really, the first 2 episodes were probably my favorites in this regard. Number 1 was the fact that we have now pretty much all but confirmed that Adora is from Eternia. We learn a lot more about the character Mara, who was the previous She-Ra. I thought that was kind of cool. I like the fact that we had a bunch of familiar faces come back from previous episodes, Madame Razz for instance, but also some of the Horsemen that we have only seen in only like a single previous episode. Although they too only get a 1 episode appearance in this season, which, like I said, kind of shows that there's a bit of a problem with this. We had Tongue Lasher make an appearance, we had Hantara make an appearance for 1 episode each, more or less. I mean, Hantara is technically in a 2nd episode, but she's barely in it. And yes, I did think Gina Davis did a good job as Hantara. I thought she was an excellent character. I just kind of wish they would have done a little bit more with her. The second thing, and this was honestly the biggest positive thing about this season, because like I said, I really did not like the way the series ended, but I do kind of like what it's alluding to, that we finally learned Hordak's origin story. And this was great because Hordak, for the first 2 seasons of She-Ra, has kind of been an insignificant character, to be perfectly frank. The entire series has focused so much on Adora and Catra that Hordak has kind of been just left at the sidelines. Now, in this series, we learn that, first of all, Horde Prime is a character in this show, and that Hordak is a clone of Horde Prime, which I thought was excellent. And the fact that we find out he has a bit of an inferiority complex is kind of cool because it kind of explains a lot of the things that's been going on the villain's side in this story. And this was a huge leap forward for this character in particular. I think this really did a whole lot to make this version of Hordak really stand out. And then, of course, there's Entrapped. I mean, we already saw Entrapped working surprisingly happily for Hordak, but this season it kind of became pretty obvious that the show creators are shipping them. And I gotta say, I'm totally fine with this, especially because I like the fact that Entrapped has now finally found a niche where she's actually helping open up this particular character, showing that she actually, feels something for other people. Like I said before, Entrapped has been such an infuriating character because we really don't know what the hell's going on with her most of the time. At the same time, we are kind of seeing an unfortunate tinge of maybe a sort of relationship that Evelyn and Skeletor had in the Masters of the Universe movie. Not a big fan of that. And yes, this ship, of course, doesn't exist in the Filmation show. But the thing is, I don't mind the fact that they're kind of shuffling the character pairings along. The Filmation show is a little ambiguous about these anyway. The Netflix show has, for instance, suggested that there might be something going on between Seahawk and Mermista, even though in the original show, Adora and Seahawk were very clearly a couple. And actually, Adora doesn't even have any real obvious love interest on the show, which I'm actually perfectly fine with. I will say, though, this whole thing between Adora and Catra and their animosity towards each other, it's getting a little old. I really like the fact when Catra and Scorpia went out in the desert and had their little adventure. That was in the 3rd episode, and that was really the last good episode because I really liked it. I really liked everything that was going on. That's the part where Tongue Lasher was in. But here's the thing, I'm constantly just waiting for this storyline to have some kind of a closure, because yes, we went through Catra's inferiority complex towards Adora through in the 1st season. We had her toying around with the other characters in the 2nd season, but honestly, at this point, it's just getting old. I really just want us to move on, maybe have Hordak step up as an adversary to She-Ra, or, as this show is heavily now implying, that Horde Prime and the Horde Army are actually going to be turning their attention towards Etheria, whereas we've now learned that Etheria has actually been in some kind of a weird void dimension or something, and that's why people aren't aware that there are other planets and stuff. Which does then, unfortunately, bring us right back around to my least favorite part of this season, which was the 2 to 3 episode finale, where reality gets all distorted and Adora sees this weird, perfect version of her life that doesn't exist. And honestly, this whole thing just felt like a whole bunch of nothing. I knew that it was not going to lead to anything. I thought it was kind of, I thought it was just frustrating that we really did not see any true plot development for 2 entire episodes. For a 6-episode season, there was 1 episode less than in the previous season, and this really frickin' annoyed me. Again, this is why I don't like these mini-seasons. If you're going to make a multiple episode story arc, why would you waste it on something this fucking banal? And you know what, at least I should give them points for effort because, Queen Angela gets trapped in the dimensional void at the end of the episode, thus, I guess, unofficially killing her off from the show for some reason. I seriously don't understand. Why was this plot development necessary? They were just that desperate to find some kind of a big wow moment at the end of the season? I mean, granted, season 2's final episode wasn't like much of a bang, but at least it had something kind of positive and nice about it. Which I'm sad to say, of course, Bo's dads didn't come back in this season, although we have a sort of callback to that episode. But yeah, I'm just not feeling the storyline thing with the dimensional fapping about with. It's just a complete mess in my opinion. Now, having said that, like I said, the first 3 episodes of this season were really, really good. I really liked what was going on. But that's the thing, I feel like with this story thing, where we're learning more about the She-Ras and everything, there's still this annoying breadcrumminess to the story details that they're giving out. Even though we got 2 very big story developments, and yes, I also like the fact that Shadow Weaver was kind of working with the heroes in this season. I thought that was a really cool way of keeping her relevant. Again, I wish we would have seen more of the Horsemen and not just have a bunch of them make a cameo in 1 episode like they did this season. And I should also note, Scorpia has really stepped up as a character, especially compared to how dumb she was depicted in this previous season. But yeah, this was probably the most infuriating season of the Netflix She-Ra show. But we got a lot of cool story details out of it. For this, I'm actually looking forward to the 4th season of this show. So, just as I did with the first couch vlog, I just want to give a few things I really would want to see in the next season. Number 1, just make it longer. I know it's a budgetary thing, and I get the feeling the reason they're doing these miniseries is that they're kind of gauging the fan response to everything. But come on, just take a fucking risk, have some balls. You're the writers of the show, you have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want. I just don't want another freaking 5 to 7 episode season where more than 2 of the episodes are part of some lame story arc that doesn't really go anywhere. Number 2, again, I really want to see the princesses actually do something significant. They don't have to become the star of the show, but just give them, like, cool little highlight moments. 3, bring back Swiftwind, for God's sakes. Even though I think it's still a little too early in the game for a He-Man cameo, even though I would really want that, maybe, like, you know, at some point address what the hell Grayskull is, you know? It's like in She-Ra's transformation call, I think an explanation is long overdue. Having said that, the finale does allude to a lot of cool things. I really hope that Entrapdak is still going to be a thing next season. And I am looking forward to more Horde Troopers. That's my thoughts on the Season 3. Sorry if this video was kind of rambly and hard to follow. What else is new? So, until next time, I'm Hande the Hande Mäkinen. I have the power, so can you.